So, in my last video, I told you that Sony's plan to kill physical media was a mistake. And I still stand by that. But somewhere in there, I made a joke. Japan is always 5 to 10 years behind the West. Let me clarify what I meant though, because I know where your head went. Japan isn't behind on tech. This isn't the fax machine bit. Japan is behind in a very specific way. They're behind on their bad ideas. They watch the West pick up something stupid, something that eats itself from the inside. And then 5-10 years later, right when the West is finally working out, it was a mistake, Japan grabs it and runs with it like they're the ones who can make it work. They won't. But I digress. We saw it with Nintendo. We saw it with Sony. And now I'm watching it crawl into the two things I actually care about, manga and anime. And it slipped out in that last video. Anime and manga are not as great as they used to be. And when people ask what actually changed, the clearest answer is the prominence or the disappearance of fan service. The panty shot. Which is funny, right? What does the Western normie hate the most? Fan service. How many articles have you seen about how fan service is bad? Or stop me if you've heard this one. This anime is good, but it would be better with less fan service. First of all, no. That's part of the identity of anime.
Some people were tremendously offended that we would dare show that porno smut in a public forum.
I take it this was the striptease early in the first episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Second, this content was made for young boys and teenagers. That demographic that supposedly stopped existing. The one the content stopped being made for around 2016. Yes, them. The bitchless losers who were just part of life. I was there too, and it's fine. You wait, you get better, you don't stay bitchless forever. You can have a bit of waifu and fan service, and it's great. But not in the West. Everywhere else on the planet, that demographic has something to connect to. A hero to look up to, a role model. The teenage guy in the West has nothing. And he used to. Luke Skywalker, the farm boy who wouldn't kill his own dad because he still thought there was something good left in him. He comes back as a bitter old man, standing over his nephew's bed, thinking about killing him in his sleep. He-Man died in episode 1 of his own show. James Bond, his own franchise, called him a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, then killed him off, etc., etc., etc. So he asks for a role model, he asks for a hero, and what he gets called is toxic masculinity. And you oppress women. He didn't even live long enough to get anything out of life yet. And he's already the fucking oppressor. Oppressed who? With what? And the fandom? He got kicked out of the thing that was built for him in the first place. Every other space got built for somebody else. And the one space that was actually his, they took that too. So, fuck you, basically. That's what I'm paying for. The tropes, the gags, the ecchi, the baka meme, the panty shot. Not the dumbed down, globally safe version made for a modern audience. That was never going to stick around anyway. So this isn't a story about Japan losing its morals. And it isn't a story about Japan getting bought by some foreign owner either, because Sony is Japanese. It's a story about Japan's biggest companies buying a seat at the Western table and then bringing the table's rules home. And then censoring themselves when nobody asked, not the West. And more importantly, not us. The people who actually paid. Right now, some Japanese studios are making Japanese products for people who don't want Japanese products. And the people who did want them, the people who actually paid, who actually love this stuff, they're walking out the door. In real time, Capcom, Atlus, Bandai Namco, Sony, and now it's reaching anime. They're not making these changes for us. They're making them for the outsider. And the outsider doesn't buy the thing. So, it's a waste of money, a waste of time, and a waste of everyone's sanity. Now, before somebody keyboard warriors the comment section, let me say this right off the gate, because I hate when people argue with a thing I didn't say. I cannot prove that Sony's executives sat in a room and sent a memo to every sub-company telling them how to operate. I don't claim that. I don't need it. What I'm pointing at is a company that picked up its content rules, moved them to California, and now owns both the console you play on and the pipe your anime comes down. That's not a conspiracy. That's an orgy chart. And I want to be precise about the difference, because it matters. A conspiracy is when you have to guess that people are connected. An org chart is when the company publishes that they're connected. Sony Group owns Sony Interactive Entertainment. That's the console. Sony Music Japan owns Aniplex outright. Sony Pictures and Aniplex jointly own Crunchyroll. That's the pipe. I'm not drawing lines on a corkboard in my basement. I'm reading their investor relations page out loud. Sources are in the description. Every number, every quote, every headline, check them. I'd rather you check them. Let's walk it down, one company at a time. The desk moved to California. I have to start with the boring part. The administrative part nobody wants to talk about. And it's the part that changed everything. Sony Computer Entertainment used to be headquartered in Tokyo. That's where PlayStation came from. That's where the soul of that company came from, and the respect we used to have for it. Then they moved it. San Mateo, California. Around 2018, that becomes the center of gravity for the whole platform. And I get the decision. Some MBA bro did the math and it made sense on paper. Your audience is Western, they love your games. Your biggest hit was The Last of Us, so get closer to them. But that closeness, that's how the rat gets on the ship. The mindset isn't the same over there. The real move was to keep doing what you were doing. Like Nintendo, they stayed in Kyoto, they kept the decisions in Kyoto, and their games still feel like their games. Why? Because it works. So here's the timeline, and I want you to actually understand it. Starting in the fall of 2018, Sony Interactive Entertainment starts applying its own content guidelines to Japanese games. A second gate. And these are games that already passed Zero, Japan's own ratings board, in Japan, for the Japanese audience that was going to buy them. And if your first instinct is that this is just Western localization, doing what Western localization does, I've got one example that ends that argument. Nekopara, censored on PS4 in Japan. The Japanese release for Japanese buyers on a Japanese console by a company that used to be a Japanese company. That's not localization. There's nothing to localize. That's a platform in California deciding what Japan is allowed to sell to Japan. And it gets more insulting. Japanese developers said the censorship request had to be submitted in English and sent to the California office. Sit with that picture for a second. A Japanese studio in Japan making a Japanese game that was already cleared now writes a letter in a language that isn't their first to an office on the other side of the planet to beg permission to keep their own art the way they drew it. And Sony didn't even deny it. The president of their Japan business at the time, Atsushi Morita, stood up at the Japan Studio Fund meeting on December 1st, 2018, and said it out loud. And I'm quoting, so you know, I'm not putting words in his mouth. He called it simply a matter of matching global standards. Global standards. Remember that phrase. It's coming back later in this video. And when it does, it falls apart completely. Because when a company tells you it's matching global standards, what it's actually telling you is that the local standard, the one the actual audience grew up with, doesn't count anymore. And I'm tired of hearing it. Global standards means the spicy dish made for people who love spice gets turned mild because not everyone can handle spice. The sour dish made for people who love sour becomes watered down lemonade. Anything unique gets sanded off because someone, somewhere, might not like it.
あとすごい話題になってたそのコスチュームとか当時とそのままなのかどうなのかみたいなのがありましたよね、また。
まあね、いろいろ規制もあってね、露出してきちゃいけないとかね。
そこ、まあちょっとあんまり深掘りする気はないんですけど、いいのにだってフィクションだけどその中に主人公というあなたが入って冒険するっていうことでいいじゃないと思うんですけど、違うんですかね。
なんですかね。よくわかんないですけどね、これについてはね。
ゲームだし。
Make something for everyone and you make it for no one. No taste, no originality, no flavor. How many franchises died to global standards? Name them in the comments. Let's see how many of you actually make it this far into the video. And then a Sony rep told the Wall Street Journal in April 2019 that the whole policy was a response to the Me Too movement, the rise of live streaming, and the risk of lawsuits. Look at that list. Me Too, live streaming, lawsuits. Every single one of those is a Western problem, an American problem. Not one of them is something a Japanese player ever asked about or cared about. The policy was never built for the guy buying the game. It was built to protect a California company from a California headache. And this isn't a one-off, it's a pattern. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 back in 2016. Minato canonically loses an arm in a fight. It's not decoration, it matters to the story. Sony Interactive Entertainment made CyberConnect to take that out. They edited a disability of a character to satisfy a guideline in a game based on a manga where the injury is a plot point. Think about how stupid that is. And here's the punchline. Fans built a mod to put the arm back, the market fixed what the platform broke. Or Blue Protocol, Western release, and the female characters lose the physics options in the character creator. Now that one wasn't Sony, that was Amazon Games, the Western publisher. And I'm telling you that because I want the record straight. But listen to the reason they gave. These things are culturally accepted in Japan, but in the West, they can be uncomfortable for players. Uncomfortable for which player? Not the Japanese one. The Western one. The one the game wasn't even made for. So put it together. A Japanese company moves to California and starts telling Japanese developers what the consumer who was there from the very start, is allowed to see and buy in English, citing American culture war problems as the reason. And here's the funny part. The consumer didn't change. The company did. When it moved, its morality moved with it, and it turned into that sad parent trying to protect the whole world while she's home alone living with her cats. Nobody invaded Japan. Nobody had to. They just moved the desk, and whoever owns the desk owns the rules. Then they stopped waiting to be asked. Now it goes from sad to dark. Because once you've set that precedent, you don't need the guy in California anymore. The studio does it on its own, ahead of time. because it already knows what the answer is going to be. Persona 3 Reload, the remake of the 2006 classic. And look, I'm a huge Alas fan, so this isn't me hating on the game. The game is good, it sold fine, but watch what quietly changed between the original and this remake, because it tells you exactly where Japan's head is at now. Original Persona 3. There's a beach scene. Junpei, Akihiko, the main character, out looking for girls, and they run into a woman. She's got stubble. She's written as trans. It's a gag. And you can think that gag is funny, or you can think it's cheap. That's a different conversation. The point is, it was there. It was in the game. And Japan shipped it in 2006 without blinking.
There's a woman over there all alone. It's unusual to find someone not in a group.
No boyfriends to be seen in the area either. I think we're in the clear. All right, time to make contact. Excuse me, miss.
Oh, hello. Can I help you?
Oh, she's hot. Say, you here alone?
Yeah? And I'm so bored. I've been watching you, by the way. You've been trying to pick up girls for a while. Well, how'd you do? I see. You boys are cute. But you know why you didn't succeed? It's because you don't understand what a woman feels.
Guess I can't deny that.
You, in the hat. You're way too wrapped up in yourself. Shouldn't you be thinking more about how to make your partner happy?
Yes, ma'am.
You in the t-shirt. You're the type that's stoic, but not very experienced with girls.
Yeah, I guess that might be true.
You seem like kind of a hassle, too. Like you're super logical about everything. And you, with the long hair. I'm not sure about you. I mean, you're mysterious. Like, no one can ever tell what you're really thinking. You know what I mean? Oh, you're so smart. I think you're just my type.
Hey, wait a second!
Just joking. I like you a lot too.
Really?
Want me to tell you what would make me really happy?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I ask you to help me put on my sunscreen?
What? I mean, you're all right with that?
Of course I am. I have enough for you too.
Oh man, I'm really sorry guys, but I'm not passing up this chance.
Would you two like to join too? I'll give you a good deal.
A deal?
You know that sun in the sky isn't real, right? That's an artificial sun that got sent into space back in the 1980s.
Huh?
You didn't know? Turns out that sun sends out harmful rays that mess with your body's equilibrium. Normal sunscreen doesn't work. But that's where this special one comes in. And if you opt in right now, you can get 3 bottles for just 300,000 yen.
Hey, doesn't she sound kind of strange?
Ah, what the hell? Don't just leave me behind!
What? You're leaving?
When you play a remake of a 2006 game, you already know what the deal was back then. Offense got given, offense got taken, and everybody lived. That was normal. Now everything tries to push you into being offended, and if you're that easily offended, that's your problem, not the games. In Reload, they keep the scene. Same setup, same punchline, but the gender part, gone. They rewrote her into a conspiracy theorist. Same beat, different reason for the joke, and here's the detail. That is the whole thing. That change was not made by a localizer, not by a Western publisher, not by some translation team softening it on the way out the door. Kotaku confirmed the Japanese audio was changed too, which means it was made by the Japanese staff. During development in Japan, before it ever left the country, that's not censorship being done to Japan, that's Japan doing it to itself. And I think I know why it happened this fast. Japanese working culture is not Western working culture. They take enormous pride in doing the job right, in following the standard properly, in not being the one who gets it wrong. So when the new standard shows up and says, this is how it's done now, they don't do it halfway. They learn it to a T, that work ethic used to protect the craft. Now it's carrying the flinch. And it wasn't just that one scene, the summoning, that whole iconic image of putting a gun to your own head to call your persona, toned down. A scene where Yukari gets scared and grabs the main character's arm, cut. Dialogue rewritten to be, and this is how they described it, less depressing. Individually, sure, you can shrug at any one of those. That's the trick. It's never one big thing. It's 100 small ones. Each one, the normie will fight you to defend, and the dishonest one will tell you you're seeing things. Death by safetyism. You kill the title one careful little cut at a time. And that's the 5 to 10 year lag right there in one game. The West spent a decade building that reflex, the flinch, the pre-apology, the let's not risk it. Japan imported the whole thing. And now they run it on a Japanese game, made in Japan, for an audience that, when you follow it all the way down, isn't even Japanese. Bandai Namco said it out loud, then shipped the proof. If you remember one part of this video, make it this one. Because this is where somebody actually admits it on the record, and then their own company hands you the receipt on a silver platter. There's a guy, Frank Genti, senior localization manager at Bandai Namco. He gave an interview to AFP, a wire service, back in January 2024, where he just describes how the magic gets made. He said they tell the Japanese developers to dress their heroines, whatever that means. No, wait. He tells you exactly what it means. He said the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirt is a bit too short. Fine. Bad enough. But that's not the part that got me. The part that got me is what he said next. He said, before they weren't very flexible, but they've become more proactive on such subjects. More proactive. Say it slower. The developers have become more proactive, meaning they don't wait to be told anymore. They do it themselves now. They see it coming. The instruction became the instinct. That's the exact stage I just described with Persona. Except here, it's a company guy describing it as a good thing in a press interview with a straight face. And it's not just him. Localizers as a group have admitted to proactively censoring games for the West. Not we were forced to, proactively. It's a workflow. It's a thing they're proud of. But here's why I believe him, and why you should. You don't have to take his word for it. His own company shipped the proof. Bandai Namco published Code Vein 2. Go back to the first Code Vein so you understand what people actually signed up for. The original heroine torn white dress that barely holds together. Hot spring scenes with the NPCs, a boss that pole dances, an NPC named Karen who's basically wearing nothing. That's the game. That's the whole aesthetic. That's what people who bought Code Vein bought Code Vein for. It was anime, unapologetically, top to bottom. Now here comes Code Vein 2, January 2026, and the female characters get shorts. Under the skirts, towels in the hot springs, designs toned down, covered up, sanded off. Same outfits carried over from the first game, now with black shorts underneath. What in the world is that kind of switch up? But wait. There's more. The male characters can still wear speedos in their default outfits. So rewind. The women got covered up, the men kept the speedos. And this is the part that actually makes me mad, because you know what I hate more than anything? Hypocrites, double standards. Now, somebody's going to tell me it's the T rating. And they're half right. Code Vein 2 is rated T where the first game wasn't. That's the official sounding reason, and I'll put it on the table myself. But that's exactly why it doesn't work. A T rating hits everybody. That's what a rating is. If this were about the rating or about some neutral global standard, remember that phrase? It would have hit the men too. It didn't. It hit the women. Which means it was never a rule, it was somebody's specific idea of what's allowed to be looked at, and that idea did not come from the fan base. And this isn't just me being an old man yelling at a cloud. Gaming Bible, mainstream site, ran the headline, "Female Characters Censored in Classic Anime Souls-like" on January 27, 2026. Go on the game's own Steam discussion board right now. There are threads titled Censorship, No Buy, Neogaf, Code Vein 2 has been censored and uses translation for modern audiences. This is documented. This is the reaction. And the best line in all of it wasn't from a critic. It was from a random fan in a Steam thread. He said, "You're not appealing to a broader audience, you're losing your core audience." That's it. That's the whole video in one sentence. From a guy in a forum. Because the people who liked Code Vein didn't ask for this. It wasn't made for them. It was made for some imaginary broader audience that, punchline, didn't show up to buy it anyway. Now let me be honest about the numbers, because I'm not going to lie to make my point hit harder. Code Vein 2 wasn't a flop. It was the #1 new physical release in Japan its launch week, 14,452 units per Famitsu. Peak concurrence on Steam came in around 11,000. So it's sold, but it's sold on the first game's name, on the trust the first game built with the exact audience it just spat on. And then that audience turned on it. It sits at about 52% positive on Steam. Mixed, its own fan base split down the middle on a sequel to a game they loved. And I'll go further because I want you to be able to defend this argument when someone comes at you. A big chunk of those negative reviews are about performance. Frame rate, stuttering, pop-in. That's real, and I'm not going to pretend everyone's star is about a pair of shorts. But that cuts my way, not theirs. Strip out the performance complaints, and the censorship reviews are still there, in volume, from people who bought the first one. And I already hear the next comment. But the character creator in 2 is actually bigger. You can customize more. Yeah, that's true. More sliders, more face options, but that's a different thing. They gave you more tools to build your guy and then covered up the characters that ship in the game. More freedom in the menu, less freedom in the art. And Capcom is doing the same thing, just quieter, less of a paper trail. Put the Street Fighter 6 models next to Street Fighter 5 or go back to 4. Same characters, 3 games. You'll see the road they're walking. Bandai Namco just got caught saying it out loud. Baldur's Gate 3 had a bare sex scene and won Game of the Year. Told you global standards was coming back, because here's where the whole thing falls apart on them. A standard applies to everybody. That's what the word means. So let's test it. Let's find out if it applies to everybody or just to the people they feel like pointing it at. Baldur's Gate 3, Western game made by Larian, a studio out of Belgium. Full nudity. You literally pick the genitals in the character creator, sex scenes with basically every companion. You can go and have sex with a druid while he's turned into a bear. And I'm not getting that from a gaming site defending it. Common Sense Media, which exists to warn parents about content, itemizes the whole list. Nudity, genitals, implied oral sex, consensual intercourse. Plugged In, a Christian media outlet, does the same. 2 organizations with zero incentive to undersell it, both confirming what's in the game. So what happened to that game? Nothing. It shipped on PS5 in September 2023. It won Game of the Year. It swept every award show there was. The same press that loses its mind over a Japanese girl in a swimsuit looked at a bare sex scene and called it brave, mature, a beautiful story about intimacy. I'm not making that up. Cyberpunk. Nudity, genitals in the menu again, sex scenes, nobody blink it. The Last of Us, God of War, whatever you want off the shelf. The West gets to put anything it wants on the screen. And it's art, it's storytelling, it's grown up. Now walk a Japanese game up to that same counter. A skirt that's a bit short, a swimsuit episode, one camera angle, and suddenly we got a problem. Suddenly we need the global standard. Suddenly the skirt gets longer, the girl gets a pair of shorts, and the whole thing has to fly to an office in California and get signed off in English before you're allowed to look at a cartoon. So tell me how that works. If this was really about sex or skin or protecting the fragile viewer, then Baldur's Gate 3 is the first thing you burn. It has more of that in it than every censored Japanese game stacked on top of each other. And they didn't touch it. They handed it a trophy. So don't tell me it's a standard. It's not a standard, it's a direction. And it only ever goes one way. The West can be as horny and as violent as it wants. And that's freedom, that's art, that's mature. Japan does half as much, and now it's creepy, now it's problematic, now it's for incels, now cover it up. The exact same thing on the screen, a completely opposite verdict. And the only thing that changed is the flag on the box. You already know how I feel about that, because I say it every time. I hate hypocrisy. I hate a double standard more than almost anything in this world. And this is the biggest one in the medium, and they run it right out in the open and dare you to point at it. So fine, I'm pointing at it. This was never about protecting anybody. It's one rule for the art they like, and another rule for the art they don't. Now follow the org chart to Crunchyroll, that's the game side, now the anime side. Same company, same logic. And once you see the pattern in games, you can't unsee it here. Crunchyroll is the closest thing to a monopoly that legal anime streaming has in the West. Not an actual monopoly. Netflix and HiDiv exist, I'm not going to overstate it, but it's the default pipe, it's where you go. And the numbers just came in. Crunchyroll passed 21 million paid subscribers. They announced it on May 8, 2026. A year before that, May 2025, it was 17 million. 4 million paying subs added in a single year. When Sony completed the acquisition in 2021, it was around 5 million. So it's roughly quadrupled under Sony. And to give you the scale on the other side, Nielsen clocked 4.2 billion minutes of anime streamed on Crunchyroll in the United States in February 2026 alone. 1 month. Across the whole year, Americans streamed over 45 billion minutes of anime. And who owns Crunchyroll? Sony, a joint venture between Sony Pictures Entertainment and Aniplex. And Aniplex isn't a partner. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Sony Music Japan. So that's Sony. And Sony. That's not my framing. That's how Crunchyroll describes itself in its own press release. Same parent that moved the PlayStation desk to California, followed the org chart, and it's all one building. Now here's what 21 million does to a product. For years, anime streaming was niche, serving a niche crowd. The weebs. The people who'd put up with a clunky site, who went out of their way, who wanted the thing that was weird and specific and not made for everybody. That was the customer. 21 million is not niche, 21 million is mainstream, and when your customer base is 21 million and most of them are normies, the product bends to serve them. It has to. That's not a conspiracy, that's just business. You build for the people paying, and the people paying more and more are not the weebs. Now here's the part someone's going to clip out of context and run with. Go ahead, clip it, take it, screenshot it, put it on Twitter with the wrong caption. I'll wait, because I am not saying there's no good anime anymore. There is. There's great anime every season, and if you cut the video right here and tell people GeekGateX says anime is dead, that's your lie, not my take. Own it. My actual take is narrower and it's harder to wiggle out of. There's less of it that fits what a weeb actually watches. The proportion is shifting because when your product has to keep 21 million mainstream subs happy, you start building the catalog for the loyal people who were already there, and you start building it for the 21 million you're scared to lose. The niche stuff doesn't vanish. It just becomes a smaller and smaller slice of a bigger and bigger pie. And the whole center of gravity slides away from it. The people who built anime fandom, who carried it on their back for 20 years, back when it was embarrassing to admit you liked it. They're becoming a rounding error in their own hobby. That's the story. Not anime is dead. Anime stopped being for the people who loved it first.
These days in the English-speaking world, anime is normal. Fans are everywhere. Every mall has anime stuff. New releases show up regularly in theaters. It didn't used to be like this.
We talk about piracy in the anime business. It's been rampant from day one.
The stuff that we were releasing here, what was that to them? Like, how did they regard it?
Low class.
Yeah, I know about the money. Time for the counter argument, because this channel isn't an echo chamber. There's a real criticism of everything I just said, and if I skip it, I deserve to get shredded in the comments. It goes like this. This isn't ideology, you culture war grifter. Anime isn't changing because of California or Me Too. It's changing because the industry is broke. Studios consolidating, brutal per episode money, animators paid slave wages, and a broke industry plays it safe. It's money, not politics. And you know what? That's true. All of it. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. They even have a name for it. The profitless boom. The global anime market is supposed to go from about $38 billion in 2025 to nearly $90 billion by 2035. Now here's the other number. The entry-level animator in Japan makes about 1.5 million yen a year. That's roughly 10,000 US dollars, working around 225 hours a month against a national norm of about 163. $38 billion market, $10,000 a year. Over a third of Japanese studios are operating at a loss. 8 animation companies closed or filed for bankruptcy in 2025 alone. And that's the 3rd year in a row that number went UP. Meanwhile, the profit goes to the committees that own the IP. Not the studios drawing the frames, a booming market, and a starving workforce at the same time. Real, documented. I'll give you the whole thing. But here's the catch. Being broke is not the counter-argument. Being broke is the mechanism. It's the how, not the instead of. Think about it. A studio that can't make payroll can't say no to anybody. When Sony money or Crunchyroll money or a streaming deal shows up with conditions stapled to it, a healthy studio can push back.
She's a lowly. Lowlies don't exist in Night City. It doesn't fit the Cyberpunk 2077 aesthetic. But Sugar was like, no, the lowly must stay.
A healthy studio can say, no, that's not the show we want to make. A broke studio takes the money and the conditions because the other option is not making the show at all. The other option is closing. So the poverty isn't the alibi that lets Sony off. The poverty is exactly why Sony's rules stick. The desperation is the lever. You don't have to force a drowning man to grab the rope. Even if the rope's got strings on it, he grabs it because he's drowning. That's not proof there's no rope. That's proof the rope is working. So next time someone tells you it's just money, agree with them and then finish the sentence they stopped halfway through. Yeah, it's money. And the money has a direction and a source and a set of conditions. Follow it. The audience already left. So if all this is true, if anime is drifting off the people who built it, then those people went somewhere. An audience doesn't evaporate, it migrates. So where'd they go? Korea? China?
China?
And the numbers aren't subtle. Manhwa, Korean comics, and their webtoons. That market is worth about $14.4 billion in 2026, and it's forecast to hit around $60 billion by 2031. That's a 33% compound growth rate. That's not growth. That's a takeover happening in slow motion, and that's not one bullish report. Allied Market Research has it on the same trajectory independently. In Korea itself, the domestic webtoon market passed 2 trillion won for the first time and came in around 2.29 trillion won for 2024. And it's crossing over hard. Omniscient readers' viewpoint. 300 million views as a Korean webtoon, and it's getting an anime. Now guess who's producing it? Aniplex. Guess where it was announced? The Crunchyroll panel at Anime Expo. Guess who's streaming it? Sony is animating the Korean webtoon that's eating anime's lunch. Same org chart. One more time. Now China, donghua. Ninja 2 came out and became the highest grossing animated film in history. 15.44 billion yuan in China alone, 2.13 billion US dollars, 324 million admissions. It beat Inside Out 2. It beat Pixar at its own game. And here's the part that should scare Japan specifically. Chinese studios are producing original IP at a fraction of what it costs Japan, with better tooling and a talent pool that keeps growing. They've got money Japan doesn't have. They've got state backing Japan doesn't have. And they're aiming straight at the audience Japan is currently shoving out the door. And I'll be honest with you, this is me too. I stopped watching Western slop a long time ago, and now I've got one foot out of anime and into manhwa and Chinese and Korean stuff, because anime got a little too mainstream. I feel like a hipster saying it, but it's true. It lost part of its identity. The weebs didn't riot. They didn't start a petition. They didn't sit around waiting to be won back. They just left, quietly, with their wallets. One sub and one manhwa, chapter at a time. And manhwa and donghua didn't win because they're better than anime at its best. They're not. Not yet. They won because they were willing to serve the audience anime decided to stop writing for. And here's the thing about that anime fan base. The real one. The OG one. You won't get them twice. Now, if you're still sitting there going, come on, the toned down version is fine, most people don't even notice. I've got one question that ends the whole argument. Why is the uncensored version the thing they sell you separately? It's not an accident. ATX airs the versions with less cutout, and fans go hunting for those specifically. Uncut Blu-rays are a whole business model. They exist because there's money in the version with nothing removed. And here's the cleanest example you will ever get. Rent a Girlfriend, Season 5, Episode 2. They cut it for the stream. Fans got loud enough. And the company said, fine, here's the uncensored version on the Blu-ray, Volume 1, November 25th, in Japan. Two things about that. One, the stream where they cut it, Crunchyroll comic book's own headline calls it a Crunchyroll anime. So the censored version is the one Sony sells you, and the uncut version is a Japanese disc. 2. There's no confirmation that disc ever comes out anywhere else. So the sanded down one is what you get. The real one is a product in another country at a higher price. They'll sell you the cut and charge somebody else for the original. And if the original never crosses the ocean, well, you weren't the customer anyway. If the covered up safe version was actually what people wanted, nobody would be able to charge you extra for the original. The market already told you which one people value. It's the one nobody touched, and they're paying a premium for it. That's not my opinion. That's a price tag. So who is the outsider, actually? Let me pull back because this is the part that actually gets under my skin. Every one of these changes, games and anime both, gets justified the same way. It's for a broader audience, it's for global standards, it's to be more welcoming, to not alienate the new people. But watch what actually happens. The broader audience they keep talking about never shows up to pay. Code Vein 2 didn't sell to some giant new crowd. It sold to the old crowd, and then pissed them off. The 21 million Crunchyroll subs aren't out here demanding the niche stuff gets sanded down. Half of them don't know what got changed and wouldn't care if you told them. So who exactly are these changes for? They're for a hypothetical guy. A guy who might get offended. A guy who might complain. A guy who might screenshot something and start a problem on a platform in California. The changes aren't made to please a real customer. They're made to dodge an imaginary critic. And that is a completely different thing. And it's a garbage way to build anything. Because when you make your product to please your actual audience, you get better at knowing your audience. When you make it to dodge an imaginary critic, you just get better at flinching. You get better at guessing what might upset a person who was never going to buy your thing in the first place. And every guess makes it a little more generic, a little more scared, a little more like everything else. That's what, for the outsider, really means. It doesn't mean they found a bigger audience. It means they started designing around the absence of a complaint instead of the presence of a fan. And you cannot build anything with a soul that way. Not a game, not an anime, nothing. I already know some of you are getting ready to tell me I'm reaching, that I just made a 30-minute video connecting PlayStation disc to anime titties and slap the word conspiracy on it. Go ahead, say it. But I didn't connect anything. Sony did. They put their name on the console, on the content rules, and on the pipe your anime comes down. I just read the label out loud. And that stupid joke from the start, Japan being 5 to 10 years behind the West, it was wrong. Japan didn't fall behind anybody. Japan packed up the desk and shipped it to San Mateo. And the day it landed in California, everything it touched started smelling less like Japan and more like an HR meeting. So am I going to sit here and tell you we won because I made a video? No. Come on. Most people don't care about any of this. The guy with the Crunchyroll sub doesn't know what got cut and doesn't want to know. He just wants something on in the background. We're not winning. I'm not going to lie to your face and call a comment section a revolution. But the people who actually built this thing, the weebs, the ones who loved it when it was weird and embarrassing, and you couldn't tell anyone at school. They already voted, they didn't riot, they didn't sign a petition, they didn't sit around waiting to get one back. They took their wallet, walked 2 aisles over to the manhwa and the donghua, and left the door open on the way out. And that's the part Japan still hasn't clocked. You get 1 shot at that audience. You spit on them, they're gone. And you will not get them twice. That's not me being bitter. That's the bill showing up. You reap what you sow. Life doesn't owe you a thing, but you don't owe the company a thing either. If you want someone to keep reading the label out loud and naming the company at the top of the chart, subscribe. There's a lot more of this coming. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm The Broken Dream. Don't forget, be righteous and stay passionate. First of all, I wanted to thank you for watching this video. It was mostly a train of thought that I had and that I wanted to complete. And don't get me wrong, I think anime is fantastic. They're still doing great. The animation goes harder now than before. We're right now in the golden age of anime. We have more anime than ever, and more niche anime than ever. Like interspecies reviewers, gushing over magical girls, immoral guild, harem in the labyrinth of another world, and more.